Hello, you're watching Afghan News with Mohsen Jamal. Hundreds of people protested on Saturday against the accidental killing of a teenage boy by NATO-led forces in a volatile eastern province. And the district governor said 4 men were shot dead and 6 injured as police fired at the crowd after it turned violent. District Governor Abdul Khaliq Maroof said that demonstrators had poured into the streets in the Hisarak district of eastern Nangarhar province to denounce the overnight killing of a 15-year-old boy by Afghan and foreign troops. The mistaken killing of civilians by foreign troops is a major source of friction between President Hamid Karzai and his Western backers and complicates efforts to win support from ordinary Afghans for the war against the Taliban. Maroof said insurgents had infiltrated the crowd, saying he did not know whether the dead or wounded protesters had been among those who fired at the police. In a statement issued earlier on Saturday, the NATO-led International Security Assistance Force said its troops had mistakenly killed a 15-year-old boy during an operation with Afghan forces to capture a Taliban insurgent in Hisarak. Afghan soldiers backed by NATO-led forces killed 8 militants elsewhere in the country since Friday morning. A statement released by the Defense Ministry said here Saturday, troops during the operation covered parts of Kapisa, Kandahar and Farah province, also seized a handful of weapons, the statement said. Without revealing nationalities, the statement also said 4 foreign fighters were also among the dead militants. Afghan and NATO forces have kept on pressure against Taliban insurgents as the militant group announced on April 30th to start a spring offensive against Afghan and NATO-led international forces. The United States on Friday welcomed India's boost in assistance to Afghanistan and called New Delhi a regional leader despite expected concern from Pakistan over the aid. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh on Thursday pledged $500 million in fresh aid to Afghanistan, raising the Indian contribution to $2 billion on a visit to Kabul that came days after Pakistan was jolted by Osama bin Laden's killing. Robert Black, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia, said that Singh recognized India's enhanced position as a regional leader. His visit to Kabul underscored India's strong efforts to support international efforts to rebuild a secure and stable Afghanistan. Black said at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a think tank. Black said that better ties between India and Pakistan could bring wider economic integration to the region. Afghanistan has applied for an observer status in the Six Nations Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which will consider the application at its summit in June, Russia's foreign minister said on Saturday. The security alliance, which includes Russia, China and former Soviet republics of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, is gathering for its annual 15th summit in Astana, Kazakhstan's capital, on June 15th. Observer countries in the organization are India, Pakistan, Mongolia and Iran. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that India and Pakistan had applied for membership, which would also be discussed at this summit. The Foreign Ministerial Council of the ACO countries is meeting in Almaty, Kazakhstan's second city, on Saturday to prepare documents for this summit. The Russian minister said 2 documents would be considered at the event: the Astana Declaration focusing on the international situation and the anti-drug strategy for 2011 to 2016. Pakistan lawmakers pledged Saturday there must be no repeat of the U.S. commando raid that killed Osama bin Laden and said drone strikes targeting terrorists near the border with Afghanistan must end. The strongly worded message came after a parliamentary session lasting more than 10 hours in which lawmakers debated the situation arising from unilateral U.S. action in Abbottabad, north of Islamabad, where the Al-Qaeda chief was found and shot dead on May 2nd after a decade-long manhunt. This statement came hours after Pakistan's Taliban claimed responsibility for a double suicide bombing on a paramilitary police training center that killed 80 people and around 140 others wounded in the first major attack to avenge bin Laden's death. Pakistan's intelligence chief Ahmad Shujaa Pasha, chief of the military operations and deputy chief of air staff, briefed lawmakers before they issued a resolution condemning Washington's unilateral action at bin Laden's compound. They called on the government to appoint an independent commission on the Abbottabad operation, fixed responsibility and recommend necessary measures to ensure that such an incident does not reoccur. Parliament also threatened to withdraw logistical cooperation for U.S. troops based on Afghanistan and hit out at the drone strikes. Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi has likely been wounded in Western airstrikes and has probably left Tripoli. Italian Foreign Minister Franco Frattini said Friday. A Libyan government spokesman immediately denied that Gaddafi had been harmed. Frattini told reporters that he believed what he had been told by Giovanni Innocenzo Martinelli, the Catholic bishop in Tripoli, that Gaddafi had probably left Tripoli and had probably even been wounded by NATO airstrikes. Meanwhile, an official at the NATO Operations Center in Naples repeated NATO's line that it was not targeting individuals in bombing raids that have hit Libyan capital, and said the alliance had no way to confirm Frattini's comments. Elsewhere, Mahmoud Jabril, who serves as the foreign minister of the rebels' National Transitional Council, met U.S. President Barack Obama's national security advisor, Tom Donilon, at the White House on Friday. The United States has stopped short of full diplomatic recognition of Libya's rebel council, but the White House said it was a legitimate and credible interlocutor. Up to 6 people are reported to have been killed in protests across Syria, despite an order from President Bashar al-Assad to security forces not to fire on protesters. A leading human rights activist said on Friday 3 people were killed in homes, 2 in Damascus and 1 in a village outside Daraa, the southern city where the revolt began 2 months ago, and also security forces fired at a night demonstration in the eastern town of Mayadin, injuring 4 people. The first rallies on Friday erupted in the country's mainly Kurdish northeast, where protesters demanded an end to military actions that activists say have killed hundreds of protesters. Organizers estimated 3,500 people, mainly Kurds, protested in Amuda, and up to 4,000 more in Qamishli, including Arabs and members of Syria's Christian Assyrian sect. The rallies also spread to new areas of the capital, suggesting opposition to the 40-year Assad dynasty remains unbowed, despite one of the most violent crackdowns of the Arab Spring. Meanwhile, Adnan Mahmoud, Information Minister, told reporters on Friday that a comprehensive national dialogue in all provinces will start within days, but he gave no further details. And that 3 protesters have been killed and at least 15 wounded after government forces opened fire at demonstrators in the southern Yemen city of Aib. The soldiers began shooting after protesters surrounded a building where the troops had taken shelter after a clash earlier on Friday. Demonstrators who are calling for President Ali Abdullah Saleh to stand down then set fire to an armored troop carrier. Yemeni activists have dubbed the day a Friday of decision, hoping for success in demonstrations which have been maintained since late January. Saleh, addressing supporters who have redubbed the day a Friday of unity, denounced opponents as saboteurs and said they should use the ballot box instead. Elsewhere, Navi Pillay, the UN human rights chief, has expressed alarm at what has been described as the disproportionate use of force by Yemen authorities against protesters. And that's all for now. Thanks for joining us.